Al in Arizona. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Alex? Thanks for taking the call. I wanted to point out two things. One is the race for McCain. There's a guy running by the name of Jim Deacon, and he is the man that stands for what we believe in. Not Hayworthless and not McSame. Also,
well, listen, I agree Hayworth isn't perfect, but he's light years. He's not anti-gun and pro-open border, and he's anti-NAFTA and GATT. I think J.D. Hayworth, that's why they ran him out of Congress. The fact that he was run out of Congress, the House, shows he's better than McCain, and I've looked at the race closely. The other guy has got hardly any numbers, and I know he's great, but wouldn't you, it's neck and neck with McCain and Hayworth. Wouldn't you rather vote for J.D. Hayworth and send McCain home like Arlen Specter?
I don't trust either one of them. They've been in politics, they're career politicians, and Hayworth has a lot more dirt on him than people know. The other thing I wanted to bring up is family court. The guy that called in about family court, I spent 10 years in Las Vegas trying to reform family court. He needs to get into mediation and get out of family court. That whole system is designed to steal your money and destroy your family.
Al, do you know the history of family court? And
yes, I do.
This segues into Keiser. For those that don't know, it was set up in England about 130 years ago. In the U.S. and about the last 95, it started in a few eastern states. It's outside the Constitution. There's no due process. They say because they're protecting the kids. And so it's a judge. It's not a jury. And it's totally illegal. And now it's come out that they have quotas on taking kids, and it's all a big casino gulag, like Max talks about, meant to destroy families and get as much money as possible. I appreciate your call. Your take on the family courts, Max-Keiser.
It plays into the privatization of the prison system and companies like Corrections Corps of America, which is a publicly listed corporation on the New York Stock Exchange. The more prisoners they have, the more profits they make. Not only do they own the prisons, but they own the restaurants and the hotels near the prisons. So when you go to visit your family in prison, you stay at the hotel and you eat at the restaurant that is owned by the prison. And it's a hugely profitable business. And you put kids in prison, it's just more money for the private prison operators.
And I've noticed, I've done an analysis of the big three prison companies. They're all tied to big banks that Bloomberg admits are laundering the drug money. So the drug dealers own the prisons your kids are in.
Well, did you see that story about Wachovia, which is now owned by Wells Fargo? They were caught laundering $250 billion for drug cartels in Mexico.
They even own the aircraft. They even own the aircraft.
Yeah, they don't deny it. They were just given a slap on the wrist. They paid a fine. Now, it's amazing that back in 2008, when the credit crisis was at its nadir, and Hank Paulson was in front of Congress begging for $700 billion to keep his buddies Goldman-Sachs alive, the only cash available to roll over short-term paper on Wall Street was available from the drug cartels. And this is a documented fact. They're the only organization in the world that had actual cash. Everyone else was rolling virtual treasury nonsense.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that we're in deadly danger, folks. I mean, when I say the government and the big mega corporations are completely ruthless and criminal and want to bankrupt you so they can have an emergency reorganization and secure their ill-gotten gains, I mean it. I mean, none of us, whether you work for the FBI or you're a school teacher or a nuclear physicist or a TV host like Max-Keiser, 99% of us are on the short end of the stick in this. The new world, they got so many petty people they give little badges and security clearances to and these little power trips. Folks, you better choose sides now. We better decide to get rid of these people or it's over. I mean, I'm not kidding around here. Max, comments? Yeah. Any other?
Well, I think the demarcation between safety and money. You know, on Wall Street, we used to have what we call the FU money, which is the amount of money you needed to basically say FU to the system. And, you know, back in the 80s, I think if you had $10 or $20 million, you could comfortably say FU to the system. But today, that number's up at the 100 to 200 million range. Unless you've got 100 or 200 million to really seriously bribe the politicians you need to bribe to stay out of prison, you are vulnerable.
I've heard a lot of really rich people talk about FU money. People worth $2-3 billion that 3-4 years ago left, and they said there will be no America. And I guess that's the only positive thing is the top globalist and then their wealth, wealthy people who they're in the same family with but who disagree with each other. There's a lot of fights going on within these families. they realize they've destroyed things so badly. That was even the Financial Times last year, that it may destroy their own system. They've been so greedy, it's gotten out of control in this orgy of looting. And so the fact that they're leaving the country shows they know there's a good chance they're going to end up going to prison.
Well, that's the old adage, shear, don't slaughter. And a few greedy folks slaughtered the golden goose of the vulnerable and culpable and gullible American public.
We're going to go to break, come back and jam in Joe, BJ, Steve, a few others with Max Keiser. Always informative to have Max on with us once a month. His website's max-keiser.com. Our websites are infowars.com and prisonplanet.com. The search term today that we want to push to #1, we've done this 3 or 4 times in the last 5 days, is Google spies. Because don't use the old terms. They're now blocking those. So just search the term Google spies. It'll take them right to prisonplanet.com and the Obama deception and how we expose Google. And they are a bunch of NSA spies.